Good evening, listeners. It's me, Ramblingramm. Now, I'm wondering what sort of videos you truly want. Do you want longer videos? Do you want longer compilations of videos? Do you want short stories? Any feedback is appreciated. I just want to know what the listeners want, more than anything else. So please comment. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Good evening, listeners. I hope you enjoy the coming tales. How to Break a Bad Habit by William Dalton. When I was in college, I developed a bad habit. No, not alcohol or drugs. Something far tamer than those. I developed a habit of sleeping in class. You see, it seemed as though every class I had fell right after a meal. Breakfast, then comp sci. Lunch, then general biology. Dinner, then statistics. As a result, I tended to drift off as the professors lectured. However, it was an incident that occurred during that last class that finally broke me of the habit for good. Most of my classes were held in lecture halls at the Science Centre, a large multi-storied concrete building with little in the way of decor. From the outside, it looked more like a parking garage or a penitentiary than an educational facility. Inside wasn't much better. A drab, featureless interior full of the same bland concrete walls and dull fluorescent lighting. Only a small area on the third floor dedicated to offices for the various staff had anything that added colour to the place. One evening, after a meal from the student union, I sat in the back row of my statistics course, feeling the tug of my eyelids as the professor droned on down in the front of the auditorium, and my stomach digested my dinner. You never notice yourself going to sleep unless you're actively fighting it, but I was not one to wage war on myself. So it wasn't long before I was out, chin in my hands, pen dangling from my fingertips, hunched over a notebook full of scribbles. It wasn't unusual for the teacher to notice when someone was snoozing in the middle of a lecture. Half the time it seemed like they didn't care. They're not paid to wake you up after all. If you're not paying attention, they're not going to suffer a pay cut when you flunk out. But some still take a moment to call your name, try to snap you out of it. So when I heard my name being called in the middle of sleep's dark embrace, I quickly snapped her attention and responded. Yes? My face got really hot, anticipating the laughter of the other students. But the moment quickly faded as I realized I was sitting alone in a dark and empty classroom. Looking at my watch, I realized that I'd actually managed to doze off through the entire hour, and then some, and it was already past 9 o'clock. Nobody had bothered to wake me, either as a joke or out of sheer obliviousness. Then I sat there wondering, who had called my name? I could still hear the voice in my head, leaving me to wonder if maybe it had been a dream. But then the voice came again. It was low, echoing in the empty room, clearly not my imagination. The auditorium was dark, but I could still make out much of the interior, and the empty seats from the smidgen of yellow light that came through one of the exits, especially from my position at the top back row. Hello? I called out into the empty blackness. Several steps down and to my left, something shuffled, moving along the row of seats. I couldn't see it, but from the sound of it, it seemed to be coming in my direction. Instinctively, my heart started racing, and I stood up, fumbling in the dark to find my books and get out of there. My pen fell to the floor and rolled off the edge of the level I was on, and for the briefest moment I had the insane thought that I needed to go get it. But then the shuffling stopped, and the room went quiet, and I stood frozen in my spot, holding my breath and feeling my heart beating in my ears. It felt like minutes went by standing in that uncanny silence. I swear the only sound seemed to be the faint ticking of my watch. The need to move, to get out of that room was overwhelming, but some lingering thought in the back of my mind wanted to hear whoever it was, whatever it was, and know that I wasn't going crazy. It obliged, finally breaking the silence by calling out my name again, not with a friendly, curious voice, but one almost devoid of emotion, like a parrot repeating the sounds its owner makes, but not knowing what they mean. When I gave no response, it moved with a brushing noise, akin to someone crawling on their hands and knees, then called again. I couldn't hold my breath in any longer, and I exhaled raggedly, my entire body shaking with fear. It was enough, and the shuffling came again, almost frenetic, moving to the middle of the aisle, then up the steps towards where I stood. Finally, my fight or flight response kicked in, and gripping my books tightly under one arm, I dashed for the other end of the row, nearly tripping over my own feet. Looking back over my shoulder, the room was still incredibly dark, but there was enough contrast between the shadows and the objects that I could just make out the form of whatever it was coming up around the edge of the desks. It had the appearance of a human being, but its gait seemed more like that of a crab, walking on both hands and feet with its knees and elbows bent, and its back arched at an agonizing-looking angle. Something about its head also seemed off, the way it bobbed as the thing scuttled, like it wasn't fully attached. The nightmare realized that I was on the move, and began scrambling up onto the desktops in a beeline straight for me. As it clambered across the row, it started making this awful gibbering sound, with an unnerving excitement to it. I can't adequately describe the noise, but it put the fear of God in me. Any notion I had that I was being pranked went right out of the window when that thing came at me. I hit the wall hard, bruising my shoulder, and tumbled down the steps towards the front of the room. Through sheer determination, I managed to keep myself on my feet and tore out of that classroom without looking back. Nobody was in the hall. In fact, nobody seemed to be in that part of the building at all. And why would there be? There weren't any classes that late at night, and all the offices and study areas was 2 stories up. The exit to the building was dark, almost as dark as the lecture hall, but I didn't care. I bolted out into the crisp night air, startling several people who were walking past, and didn't stop running until I'd made it back to my dormitory, where I hid in my room with the lights on, door locked, and shades drawn until my roommates returned. So what was it? I don't really know. My strongest suspicion is based on a story that I learned later, while talking about the incident with a grad student who had been studying at the school for years. According to her, when the centre was first being built, one of the construction workers paving the roof wasn't watching where he was going, and stepped on a skylight that happened to be set over his stairwell. He plunged 3 stories, striking the railing several times and landing on his neck, killing him instantly. Whether that story is true or not, I can't be sure. I couldn't find any news articles about construction accidents, and none of the professors I asked would verify it. Nobody else has described experiencing anything like it either. I'll tell you though, after that I didn't visit the science centre after dark, and I sure as hell never fell asleep in class again. My property isn't normal by Murderbird 17. You could say I live in the middle of nowhere. I prefer to call it the middle of the wilderness though. And after living alone out here long enough, I thought I would become familiar with the land out here and even get comfortable. But I have never gotten comfortable. Maybe used to this place, but never comfortable. Pretty sure I can hold my own out here for the time being, but even so, lots of weird shit happens out here. I'm glad to have a way to tell strangers who probably won't judge or call me crazy though. Back to the topic at hand, weird stuff. I'll start with the first odd experience I had here. When I first purchased this land, I was really excited. There was already a house on the property that was the perfect size for me. Not only that, but it seemed pretty new. Like the former owners didn't stick around too long. Yeah, red flags, but how was I supposed to know how messed up this place was? Anyway, I move in without any issues, and within a week I'm out on some of the trails that were already there, looking for deer tracks and other game trails. I'm actually having a pretty relaxing time, until I swear I heard a baby say, "Mama," in the most stereotypical voice I've ever heard, off in the distance. Now, like I said, I'm here in the middle of nowhere, so there shouldn't be anyone for miles. I just shook it off as me hearing things. 20 minutes later, I hear the same voice say, "Mama," again. Only this time it's 40 yards away on the other side of some trees and bushes. It didn't even sound like a real baby. It just sounded like a disturbed dude. Of course, at this point he's definitely on my property as well. I start making my way through the undergrowth. Then when I'm sure I'm about to hit where he was, the brush clears out to a clearing, and I finally get a glimpse of the man. He was butt naked and halfway behind a tree, and flaunting a huge smile, while his eyes stay kinda squinty. He was also pretty skinny as I could see his ribs. Now usually you hear people say that, at this moment my blood ran cold, but honestly, mine didn't. I was looking at some butt-naked crackhead trespassing on my property. He decided to let out another "Mama" during the silence while I was trying to figure out my next move. So I promptly responded with a hearty, "What the actual fuck are you doing?" That's when he decided my next move for me. He started running at me, and I might have run away if he hadn't been so scrawny. So when he reached me with that big smile and looked like he was about to grab me, I punched him in the throat. It was a good punch. I was proud of it, honestly. It would have kept any normal man on the ground for at least a minute. This is when I got the first hint that this wasn't a normal man. While I was standing there proud of my Mike Tyson level haymaker, the guy immediately got back to his feet. Before I had time to hit him again, he dive-tackled me to the ground, and it hurt pretty bad. He somehow pinned my shoulders to the ground, and no matter how hard I kicked and punched him, he wouldn't let up. so I was forced to use Plan B. I pulled out my trusty Bear Grylls survival knife and stabbed him in the gut twice. This finally got his attention, and he hopped back to his feet, slinging blood all over me in the process. I got back to my feet, knife in hand, and waited for him to do something else. All he did, though, was stick a finger in his wound, and then lick the blood off. Then, cartwheel into the woods, crying like an actual newborn baby this time. Now, by this point I was pretty on edge. Right as he got far enough away that I could no longer hear him, I turned and walked home. I know I should have run, but running through the woods is so tiring, I just didn't feel like it. When I got home, all was normal again, for a while. Another story that comes to mind when I think about odd things happening around the area is the event that led to me no longer camping in the woods. By the time that the event in this story took place, I'd already experienced quite a few things on this property, and this was easily the third freakiest thing to happen up to that point. Right behind the naked stab victim that cried like a newborn baby and cartwheeled off into the woods. This time I had decided that I wanted to go camping. Despite all the stuff that had happened, I'd never been seriously injured in these woods, so why not go sleep in them? Bad choice, I know. Anyways, the first few hours when I got into the woods went fine. I set up camp, built a fire, burned myself trying to cook a hot dog, piss on the fire that burned me. Then I started to realise, camping is pretty boring when you're all alone, so I decided to go to sleep. Next thing I know, I wake up to the sound of a young girl's voice down in the creek. Sounds like she's college-type age. She's saying,
"Help! I need some help down here. I'm lost. Dad, help!"
And I can hear her down in the creek, from my tent. Now, this isn't the first time I've been lured into the woods by a voice pleading for help, but this voice was a lot more convincing than the others. Nonetheless, I still bought my newly purchased .45 caliber handgun that I'd bought for dealing with the things on the land. I made my way into the creek, flashlight in hand, and headed down to the voice. Soon I found the source. Now, I didn't put the flashlight beam on her right away because I didn't want to blind her, but I could clearly see the outline of a small girl sitting on the bank of the creek. I got about 15 feet away, and she stopped me, stating that,
"You really don't need the flashlight with a moon out like this."
It wasn't even close to a full moon, so that confused me a little. I replied with, "I don't know about you, but I can't see a thing out here. Let me help you, though. Are you hurt?" Then I started to shine the flashlight on her, but she screamed,
"Stop!"
before I got to her face. This time her voice wasn't as convincing. I could tell she wasn't human. Now, what you guys need to realise is, I'm not a badass, and I'm not trying to sound cool or tough. But ever since something happened 3 years ago, the same event that caused me to move out here, I don't respond to situations the same anymore. Maybe I'm not scared of death anymore. Maybe I'm mentally unstable. Maybe I'm weird. But when I established that this thing wasn't human, I started to smile. It fooled me, got me out of here in the woods, in its domain, and was probably going to make an attempt on my life. But I might as well piss it off a little, so I flicked my flashlight up and revealed its face. It actually was a girl, sort of. She was super pale, and had abnormally large eyes. They were completely black. When the light hit her face, her head snapped forward and made eye contact with me, and her jaw dropped open 3 times larger than any human could. And then she screamed. It was loud, like inhuman loud. It sounded like a girl's scream, but as if it were being played through massive speakers to make it ear-splitting. Then I felt something closing around my neck. She hadn't moved, but was somehow choking me, still screaming. I've realised while living here that the entities that can hurt you can also get hurt themselves. Now, most of them are tough as nails, but they can be hurt. This memory went through my head just as I felt something warm dripping onto my neck, and my left ear went quiet. Busted eardrum. I aggressively threw my flashlight at the bitch, and it connected with what I assumed was her eye. I couldn't tell for sure because I didn't have a flashlight. And yes, I forgot to use the gun. It was new, and in the current life or death situation I forgot I had it. Luckily, this girl wasn't one of the tough ones. I felt the grip on my neck loosen, and her screams stopped. No sooner had I taken my first breath when she bent over backwards, possession style, and sprinted into the woods in reverse. When I finally caught my breath, I slowly walked back to my campsite and went to sleep in the tent. You may be asking why I didn't go back home after that, but it was a 20-minute hike, and my flashlight was broken, so I had to wait till morning. Slept pretty good though. No noises woke me up. I woke up the next morning, expecting my ear to be killing me, but miraculously, it was completely back to normal. I later figured out that it was the lady in the tree who fixed my ear, but that's a story for another time. That morning I just packed up everything and headed back home. Only thing that got messed up was my flashlight, so I wasn't even that disappointed in the trip. I still don't camp out there anymore, because no matter how weirdly wired I am, that girl really did freak me out a good bit. I'm sure she's still out there. What you will notice so far is that these entities aren't really very effective killers. But that doesn't go for everything out here. I can't tell you all about the property without mentioning Skinny. Fuck Skinny. I understand that skinwalkers are a common topic on the horror scene at the moment, and from what I can tell I think that's the creature I'm dealing with. But I could be wrong, because if this is a skinwalker, it's advanced to another level. Not only does it imitate voice, it imitates appearance, and it really wants me dead or gone. I like to call it Skinny. I think it pisses him off though. And when I say his name, I say it loud, because especially at night, I know he's listening. I've lived here for 3 years now, and he's been harassing me for about a year. And he's good. One of the smartest things to come after me so far. The only one that can seem to almost get in my head. He tries to lure me out, not by pretending to be someone in trouble, like other imitators that I've dealt with before. He's aware that that stuff doesn't work on me anymore. No, he tries to piss me off. He wants me to try to kill him. The problem is, we both know I probably can't. One time he got me though. I was watching a documentary about veteran suicide. It's a terrible topic. I'm a supporter of our armed forces. I think it's terrible that our government doesn't take better care of the vets that risk everything overseas so we don't have to. They were doing a slideshow of men who had unfortunately lost the struggle with their own demons. I had to look away for a second, because this one guy that appeared on the screen looked too young and happy to have gone to this dark of a place. He was mixed race from what I could tell, athletic looking, and had a big dimpled smile on his face. When I look away, I'm suddenly staring at the same kid, outside my window. Same smile, same build, same uniform. One difference. Across his forehead was the word failure. I instantly knew it was Skinny. He wasn't trying to imitate this kid. He was insulting him, and he finally struck a nerve. I had seen him imitate so many other people and try so many other tactics, but this was the one that finally broke me. I was ending this creature. I exploded out of my chair and bolted for my bedroom, grabbed my .45 caliber handgun, and proceeded to walk towards the same window the young soldier was still staring through. I got within 5 feet and saw that the word had changed. It now spelled out, I deserved it. After reading this, I didn't hesitate to raise my gun and fire 2 shots. But I think he ducked them. That bastard's fast. I stormed outside to try to find him, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen. That's when I hear, "Gotcha," whispered into my ear, and I was flung against the wall of my house. The gun flew out of my hand in the process, broke 2 ribs and dislocated my right shoulder. I was a dead man, and he knew it. Ever since the incident that led me to buy a house by myself out in the middle of the woods, I don't think I've ever felt fear again. Something is wrong with my head. But I did feel defeat. I fell for his trap. Now he's going to kill me. As these thoughts passed through my brain, I passed out from the pain, and the concussion probably. Then, for some reason that I still don't understand, I woke up. It was bright outside, and I was covered in blood, and in more pain than I had ever been in my entire life. But I was alive. Why was I alive? I struggled to stand up with my right arm hanging loosely at my side. I soon noticed the words carved into the outside wall of my house. Next time. Fuck Skinny. Ever since I got back from the hospital, I told the doctors I fell off of a roof. I've been trying to find ways to deal with or kill a skinwalker. If there is a way, or if he's even a skinwalker. He beat me. I'm usually pretty light-hearted with most of my experiences, no matter how intense they are. But I just can't with this one, because if I lose to Skinny again, I guess I'll be signing off for good. Be careful out there, and don't be fooled like me. There isn't always a next time. But hey, not dead yet, so maybe there will be a next time. I plan on writing down more of my experiences in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for those. Until next time, this is Cole, signing off. Well, listeners, I sincerely hope you enjoyed the tales that I've brought you this evening. It would be a great pleasure to me if you would like, comment, and subscribe, if you're not already a subscriber. And please wait for me to bring you more tales to alter your perception of how the world may really be. This is Ramblingramm, signing off. Good night, listeners, and sweet dreams.